Good morning and welcome to PolicyWatch by PolicyTV. I'm Miberon Omoluju. Quick question. Did you know that Nigeria's electricity system is carrying a debt burden of over 3.3 trillion naira owed to gas suppliers? And this single issue is one of the reasons electricity supplies across the country continues to struggle. In fact, electricity generation companies have already raised an alarm that gas suppliers may stop sending gas to power plants unless these debts are paid. Now, why is this such a big problem? Because most of Nigeria's electricity actually comes from gas power plants. Industry data shows that about 70% of the electricity on Nigeria's national grid is generated using natural gas. So, if gas suppliers decide to reduce supply, power plants simply cannot generate electricity. And when power plants cannot generate electricity, what happens next is what we are already experiencing. In fact, reports show that electricity generation recently dropped to just over 3,000 megawatts on the national grid, which is extremely low for a country of more than 200 million people. Now, to put that in perspective, Nigeria's installed capacity is more than 13,000 megawatts, yet only a fraction of that is often available because of problems like gas shortage, infrastructure challenges, and financial instability in the sector. And that brings us back to the debt problem. You see, Nigeria's electricity system works like a chain. Power plants generate electricity, distribution companies sell it to consumers, and payments move back through the system. But over the years, that chain has been broken down. Electricity tariffs have not always reflected the real cost of power. Distribution companies struggle with revenue collection, and government subsidies are not always fully paid. So, the money that should move through the system simply does not flow properly. Now, what is the result of that? Power generation companies are owed money, and because they are owed money, gas suppliers also remain unpaid. While Nigeria's power sector is battling with this 3.3 trillion naira debt crisis, the government's 2026 budget allocated about 1.1 trillion naira to the power sector to fund electricity projects and infrastructure improvements. Now, that may sound like a large number, but when you compare 1.1 trillion naira in budget spending to 3.3 trillion naira already owed within the system, it becomes clear that the financial gap in the sector is still very wide. And that brings us to the real question. If the companies that supply gas to power plants are not being paid and electricity generation continues to drop, what happens next? More outages, more fuel consumption, higher cost of living. Nigeria's electricity problem is not only a technical problem, it's also a financial problem. Until the power sector becomes financially stable, where power plants are paid, gas suppliers are paid, and investments can flow into the system, electricity supply will continue to struggle. And that leads us to one critical step we must begin to take seriously. Nigeria must fully implement a financially sustainable electricity market. That means electricity tariffs, government subsidies, and sector payments must be structured in a way that ensures everyone in the system gets paid on time, from gas suppliers to power plants to distribution companies. Because until the power sector becomes financially stable, it will be difficult for Nigeria to attract the massive investments needed to generate the electricity that over 200 million Nigerians depend on. Now, join us next week as we hit the streets again to get the opinion of Nigerians on the power outage crisis as well as the rise of fuel cost in Nigeria. Thank you for watching. I'm Miberon Omoluju. Goodbye.